Ambassador Shringar, tell me about the situation in Bangladesh now. Did Sheikh Hasina miscalculate the anger that has spilt on the streets of Bangladesh's cities? Not just Dhaka this time, not just one university, but private universities and other cities too. Did she miscalculate the level of anger against the quota system?
To put it in perspective, this is not the first time that you've had student protests. I mean, even when I was High Commissioner in 2018, you had some fairly serious student protests. One protest was about road accidents, which was, I think, students were justified because there were a lot of traffic violations that resulted in the deaths of people, including students. The other was on the quota issue.
It traces back right up till the creation of Bangladesh with the Bhasha Andolan, which was
That's
also a
right.
student protest.
Well, it's the genesis of this is 1971 when they had to fight genocide and the Pakistani forces there. A lot of people died and a lot of people were part of that freedom movement. And much like our own freedom fighters, Bangladesh also gave certain special privileges to their freedom fighters. One of this was, sort of quota for jobs to to them and their descendants. But 53 years down the line, students are saying that, it's been a fairly long time and you need to now rationalize this at a time of, high unemployment, economic difficulties. There has to be a more level playing field. So in 2018, you saw agitations which was for the removal of the quota system. The government saw the writing on the wall and agreed to actually do away with the entire quota system, which they started implementing. Earlier this year, some sections went to court and the High Court actually cancelled the government's decision to do away with the quota system. So that, I think, enraged the students and they went back into the protest mode. Government, on the other hand, says that, look, our views are not incompatible with ours. I mean, we are with you on this issue. That's why we abolished the quota system. And we have taken the matter, we have appealed the High Court decision in the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court has to pronounce judgment on that. But you're right in saying that perhaps government did not gauge the sense of, I would say, in some senses, dissatisfaction at various levels that made it a much larger movement than it is. The students set out on their issues, but then it became a larger issue of governance and so on and so forth. But what actually, I think, made it a sort of a violent and more, a movement that actually cost a lot of lives and arson, etc., was the fact that other actors came into the game. And from what we can now see, this is a very planned move to infiltrate the student movement, to bring in cadres, by the opposition BNP, Bangladesh National Party, and the Jamaat-e-Islami, which is, like the Muslim Brotherhood. It is a radical Islamic grouping that is pro-Pakistan. So they were the ones who supported Pakistan in 1971, and their descendants today continue with that same policy. And their student wing, the Chhatra Shibir, also infiltrated the student movement. And the students, when they negotiated with government, were at pains to say that our protest is purely non-violent. We don't identify with any of those elements that are indulging in violence and arson. Those are not genuine student protesters. So there is a distinction between the two. But once this movement is happening and people from behind are indulging in violence and burning down, if you see today, the damage has been extensive. They've burned down 2 metro stations completely. They burnt a 4-story building of the Bangladesh Transport Corporation. They've burned down, post offices, police stations. They've also gone in a place called Narshingdi, freed, inmates. Some 860 inmates have been freed, including some who were wanted for Islamic terrorism. So some people involved with heinous crimes.
So there was ulterior motive, not just public anger.
Absolutely. So looting also meant looting the armory, so weapons, etc. And so it took a dangerous turn with these anti-national elements coming into the picture. And I think, if you see the social media space, there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation, and that continues to happen even today.
Even though internet was stopped for some time.
Exactly. But a lot of it is coming from abroad. because the Jamaat-e-Islami has a lot of its supporters who are outside, and a lot of these so-called political exiles, basically opportunists sitting in different part of the world, posting and blogging, are all essentially linked to the same larger
Ecosystem.
brotherhood, so to
Brotherhood,
speak. And they are basically sophisticated Jamaatis, you can say. I mean, they're able to project a sophisticated image, lobby with governments in Western countries, project a certain case of human rights and violations, etc. But at the end of the day, they are hardcore radical Islamists.
So, what got everybody thinking was that when Sheikh Hasina called them Razakars, it's an epithet in Bangladesh. You can tell me more about that. When she said that they are Razakars out there, it should have got the students upset or whatever, but that wasn't that. They willingly took on the title of Razakars and said, yes, we are Razakars. That itself should have put up red flags, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, her response was taken out of context. I think the question was that, who are the people who, why are we giving quotas to these people, etc., to freedom fighters, etc. And she said, then whom should we give it to? If we don't give it to freedom fighters, should we give it to Razakars? That means those who opposed the freedom struggle in 71.
Yeah.
That was her point. But it was...
those who collaborated with the Pakistani
exactly
army.
Taken out of context to associated with the students who were protesting. And I think that was not the intention. But whatever it is, I think it sort of, basically the students said that, took that,
It inflamed passions.
It certainly inflamed passions. And I think it also, in some senses, provided fuel to the fire.
But also the BNP and some elements, at least the radical elements in the BNP and the Jamaat, would try to now influence people and say, yes, embrace the concept of Razakars, because they believe in that, in the Razakar theory, right? So they would say that make it acceptable to be a Razakar. Would they do that?
No, I think the sentiment in the country would be strongly against Razakars.
Against, right.
And the BNP takes great pains to show that they're also a nationalist party. They're opposed to Razakars, and that their founding father, which is Ziaur Rahman, who was a general at that time and ran the country as a dictator for quite some time, also was a nationalist. I mean, he was the first, they claimed, to call for independence, etc., liberation from the Pakistani forces, and fought the Pakistani forces. So they also want to take on the nationalist mantle. They don't want to take on the Razakar mantle.
Okay.
That's only reserved for the Jamaat-e-Islami, which is definitely the organization that was a political movement even at that time, which was pro-Pakistan. And then of course they have a score to settle with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, because she understood the sentiment of the people of Bangladesh that after so many decades of the freedom struggle, you had people who were involved in huge human rights crimes and violations, who were personally involved, were still moving around.
Yes.
And so she had the War Crimes Tribunal set up when she came to office in 2008, and ultimately resulted in the execution of some of the most wanted, some of the people who had the worst records at that time.
But there are still some of
and
them.
who were very influential figures, who were leading the Jamaat-e-Islami, influential figures in the BNP, were executed, following that trial.
She continues to keep that entire blood-filled past in public memory. Unlike in India, which slowly the whole partition trauma was somehow got erased after a couple of decades, 2 decades or whatever. People who witnessed that partition didn't talk about it much, didn't talk about the atrocities. It just went away. But I've seen with Sheikh Hasina, she keeps that 1971, that trauma of what happened and how the country was created, and the sacrifices made by the freedom fighters still alive amongst the population. For her, it's a mission to bring justice to those who were to those who suffered at the hands of who she calls the perpetrators of the 71 atrocities, and also the trauma that the country witnessed.
We have to remember that she is part of that trauma.
Yes.
She lost her entire family except for a sister. 15th August 1975. Just in one go, her entire family was wiped out.
Yeah.
And I think, and of course, there's been attempt, to assassinate her, which she almost was killed at that grenade attack that was undertaken more recently during BNP government period. So there is a personal angle to this, but also I think the country is, divided. There are still those who believe in that. Pre-71 era, there are still people who are holdouts from that time. There are still communities that, like the Jamaat-e-Islami, that feel that Bangladesh should be, a sort of
Islamic Republic.
Islamic caliphate.
Caliphate.
Yeah,
Okay.
which basically should have closer ties to Pakistan and so on and so forth. So that struggle continues in some senses. That's an ideological struggle between a secular, multicultural, religious Bangladesh as opposed to those who are very, very focused on monotheism and religious control, theocratic control of the country.
But to come back to the stir, the quota stir, do you think it is just that, or is it just the tip of the iceberg? There is economic and political discontent in Bangladesh. The economy suddenly is sliding. People are without jobs, unemployment. Is this just one of the things which is bothering? I mean, which showed up the street protests. There are other things too.
Well, so to put it in context, from 2010 onwards, Bangladesh has seen unprecedented growth and development. And I suppose political stability under Sheikh Hasina had a lot to do with that. And in this period, you've had, the GDP almost doubling. You've had trade increasing hugely. You had human security indices, which have been very, very good, including, gender participation, healthcare, education, bringing down the fertility rate in the population and so on and so forth. I think all that has recorded unprecedented.
Even the Pakistanis were saying, look at this country.
Absolutely.
Which was born from us, and see where they have reached.
No, absolutely. Without a doubt, I think they've gone from being a LDC country to now coming as a middle-level country, a middle-income country. So from that perspective, they've done very well. But COVID-19 was a huge setback. I think COVID-19 followed immediately by the Ukraine conflict has been very hard on the Bangladesh economy.
Because exports dipped? What was the reason?
Well, first and foremost, Bangladesh as a country imports a lot of its food and energy sources. I mean, we import energy, but we don't import that much food. And we could offset the energy by buying discounted Russian oil. I think that policy served us well. So our inflation levels remain stable, whereas countries all around us suffered incredibly from huge costs of galloping inflation. And so Bangladesh, I think today has about 17-18% inflation. And that is because, again, of high costs of imports. But secondly, of course, remittances, fell. Demand for their, main product, export product, which is garments, also fell because in the West, because of the Ukraine conflict, there was some, level of stagnation, especially when it comes to buying goods like garments and, clothing, etc. So I think, that brunt was felt all around. Foreign exchange reserves came down significantly. And that has contributed to slowing down of the economy. Added to unemployment, added to high cost of living, coupled with a sense of, desire for better governance. I think a lot of these factors there are underlying factors that have contributed to this.
Let's go to the China angle. Sheikh Hasina went to Beijing and then cut short her visit and came back. And one view was that she wasn't accorded the same level of respect and, they didn't receive her properly. The other was that she didn't get financial assistance. And then you see the stir which is happening. So is there a China angle to the student stir? Are they fueling it in any manner?
Well, I mean, from various reports that you see from the media, her visit to China was not uh, what would have been what it was touted to be. Very major visit that would result in huge deals and also very very strong financial backing and support from China. And most of all, I think a perceived sense of I would say treatment at the highest levels, because I think Xi Jinping had a very short meeting with her and left it primarily to his prime minister to deal with her, and perhaps a sense that she was not accorded the sort of reception that she should have. And here I think contrast it with India, where I recall in 2017 when Sheikh Hasina made a visit to India and I was at the airport in Delhi. Prime Minister Modi came down himself to the airport. I was surprised myself. And he had said that we just keep it a secret. And, it was a complete surprise for Bangladesh when the Prime Minister was received by our PM, who has gone to the airport had gone to the airport only for President Obama and the Crown Prince of UAE before that. And so, the impact it created in the country is immeasurable. And here's a country that, it takes a lot of, gives a lot of importance to self-respect and how others, treat them.
Even in Modi 3.0 or BJP 3.0 or NDA 3.0, whatever anybody wants to call it, the first international visit, head of state coming in, has been Sheikh Hasina. Her
That's
visit.
right. I mean, she was not only invited for the inauguration of Prime Minister Modi's government, but also for the first state visit that Prime Minister Modi hosted under his third term in office, and her first state visit outside since she became assumed a fourth term in office
Yes.
in January this year. So from that perspective, I think it did, and I wrote about it also. I wrote an article in the Economic Times in which I said that it basically symbolizes the primacy that Bangladesh attaches to its relations with India and vice versa. And I think that is very important that the two neighboring countries can collaborate to that extent. Her second visit was to China. And of course, I would also think that she definitely made that visit to India to say that my first visit has to be to India before I go to China. It would send all the wrong signals if it first
Goes to China.
state visit, first official visit were to China.
That's incredibly sensitive about bilateral ties and about her emotional ties with the country too,
Exactly.
right, with India.
Exactly. And so, a perceived sense of, not according her the respect that she deserved as a head of state or a head of government of, a partner country, I think was one of the reasons that her visit was cut short and she got back. And then she made the announcement that she would prefer to give the T-Star deal to India. This entire project involving management of the T-Star and development in that area. Now, again, we can only go by reports. I mean, we are not talking about any inside information, but various accounts indicate that there was a clear sense that India is our most important partner, and as they say, China is our developmental partner.
Sure.
And I don't
Which
know.
should be fine for India, right? That Bangladesh is our trusted ally, or Bangladesh sees us as its trusted ally, but for trade purposes does with China. That should be a more mature way of a bigger neighbor looking at Bangladesh or looking at its neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, we don't take any issue with that. But the fact of the matter is that we have also been a very important development partner. I mean, Bangladesh accounts for the largest chunk of our development partnership budget.
Yeah.
We have $10 billion in concessional financing extended to Bangladesh in for various projects for Bangladesh's development, grants in aid in other areas. And of course, I think trade has really, I would say, gone significantly higher in the last 10 years. Today, Bangladesh is our fifth largest trading partner in the world. And there was a time, 10, 15 years earlier when Bangladesh wasn't even on the radar screen in terms of trade. So the two countries have made huge progress in trade, in connectivity, in forging a developmental partnership that allows our two countries to gain immensely on a mutual
The
level.
unrest which is happening currently in Bangladesh, that did impact on trade to some extent, in the sense that for a couple of days the port was closed, transport vehicles couldn't move, the road transport vehicles couldn't move. But there's also the other element of Indians in Bangladesh. We had about, I think the last count was 4,500 of them who came across. But then there's also this thing of Mamata Banerjee, Chief Minister of West Bengal, saying that if anybody comes, if refugees come across, then our doors are open, we owe it to them. The linkage between West Bengal and Bangladesh, and then there are source-based reports which say that Bangladesh didn't quite like what Mamata Banerjee had to say, and that Indian officials said that there is no locus standi for a chief minister to say anything. It's a national issue. It's the central government which takes a stand. As a former ambassador and as a former foreign secretary, how do you see all this playing out?
Well, I mean, the constitution is very clear about allocation of powers to the center and the state and the states, and of course concurrent powers in certain cases. Foreign policy is one area where there is no ambiguity. It's purely with the center. So for a state that is so sensitive to its own rights under the constitution, whether it is for water, whether it is for agriculture, law and order, and so on and so forth, to dabble in what is a sensitive international issue is unusual. And having said that, I mean, of course, I think we have to see where the context of that statement by Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. It could have been simply saying that, look, I mean, we will be, if people come across, we'll receive them and we will take care, etc. But certainly the way it has come out has riled the Bangladeshis and has been, also a sort of, as a result, the MEA has had to make a statement on that. So I think in some senses it not only may have been out of context, but also it's really the domain of the center to make any statements on any issues, especially those that involve the internal affairs of other countries and our neighbors.
With West Bengal, that's always been an issue, even when it came to river water sharing. If you remember when Dr. Manmohan Singh's government, it was the Vajpayee government also, at every point of time, Mamata Banerjee as Chief Minister said that you cannot have agreements on issues which impact the people of the state without consulting us. Now, this is something Tripura also had said it, and all the states which are around Bangladesh say that, Indian states say that consult us too. So I get it that it's a central issue, but when it impacts on the state, is it wrong? Just, I mean, on a policy level, I'm asking you.
No, I think consultations with states on any external matters that impinge on those states is absolutely vital. And nobody understands
Like
it better.
the enclaves which were shared,
That's
all
right,
those.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Nobody understands this better than Prime Minister Modi, because he himself has been Chief
Gujarat,
Minister of a
yeah.
state. So cooperative federalism is the name of the game. And the MEA even has a states division, whose sole responsibility is to interact with states.
Okay.
And so any important issue that involves, say, Nepal and impinges on Bihar, UP, etc., and Uttarakhand, those states are consulted. Important aspects that involve, say, Bangladesh, you will consult West Bengal, Tripura, Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram. It's natural. If you have something to do with Sri Lanka, you'll consult Tamil Nadu.
Tamil Nadu. Okay.
So this has been more pronounced in the last decade or so, because, as I said, the policy has been to consult states.
Okay.
So I don't think there are too many instances where states are not consulted, and where the views of states are taken into account. But at the end of the day, decisions after consultations have to be taken by the center. You can't have states taking decisions on matters that relate to foreign policy, and certainly consultation is not the same as putting your views forward on issues that concern other states.
But it's an 856 kilometer border. Not all of it is fenced.
With West Bengal.
With Bangladesh with India.
4,000 plus kilometers.
4,000. Okay.
Yeah.
So
It's our
856
longest
is with Bangladesh, right?
with West Bengal.
West
Possibly.
Bengal and Bangladesh, and I think there's still, I think only 90% is fenced between West Bengal and Bangladesh. So there's still that fear that that we could have refugees coming in into West Bengal. Could that happen?
Yeah, well, I mean, you have fencing, but the topography is difficult. There are
Yeah.
rivers, there are hills, undulating terrain. So it's not all, I mean, there are a lot of gaps in the fencing. And you can certainly have people,
Sure.
movement of people on either side. That is one of the reasons why you have border guarding forces, etc.
But do you think that the situation has become that bad that there will be people who will be coming in as refugees? No,
Not at all.
not
Not
at
at
all.
all. I
Right?
think even out of the 15,000, Indian citizens who are in Bangladesh, according to the MEA's statement, only a certain number have come across, and that's
Okay.
mainly students. But most of the others were expatriates, professionals working in Bangladeshi companies, doing business, etc., have chosen to stay there.
To stay there.
So there's been no threat to foreigners so far.
Okay.
The situation has not reached that level.
Okay.
And so I think it's premature to talk about welcoming
okay.
people, etc.
Before I move to Nepal and conclude on Bangladesh, one question I have is that do you think Sheikh Hasina will come out of this, emerge out of this as strong as she was before, or do you think that this is going to tarnish her term, her fourth term?
She is an experienced and astute politician. She also has very strong human qualities. And she's come out of so many challenges and so many very difficult situations, right from, having seen her entire family wiped out to trying to create a political base when there were military dictatorships in power. Has seen opposition governments give a very, very difficult time, including almost losing her life in the grenade attack. She's always emerged out of all of this. And if anyone knows the pulse of the people of Bangladesh, it is Sheikh Hasina. And I have no doubt that she has the political wisdom and sagacity to emerge out of this conflict in a way that is in the best interests of her own government and the people of Bangladesh. So I think, my own sense is that, she will show the necessary, outreach and, take the steps necessary that will allow the situation to be completely restored back to normalcy. No
Right.
doubt about that.